going to say something that gets us thrown in jail because people happen to be offended. Skepticism. Do you know what you believe?
All right, folks, we are live again with another Pangburn Hangout. Today's Tuesday, so that means it's my day. I get to run the conversation and pick the topic. And today I wanted to talk about inspiration, just in general. What inspires everyone? I'll talk about some of the things that inspire me and hopefully get into some interesting discussions about what inspires all of you or anyone that stops by, and kind of talk about what I mean when I speak philosophically about the inspiration meters that exist within each of us, the artistic and scientific inspirational meters. I was on the Jesse Lee Peterson show today. It was a great conversation again. You know, although Jesse and I think very differently about many aspects of reality, I think he engages in good faith discourse, and it's hard to find people that do that, that aren't being truthful. They're purely speaking from an agenda. I think Jesse Lee Peterson isn't putting on a show. He's very truthful about how he feels, although I do think he's wrong about quite a few things. We do disagree, but I value people who are able to be truthful and, you know, not pandering to a particular type of audience or anything like that. There's a big difference between someone like Jesse Lee Peterson and someone like Steven Crowder, who, you know, seems to be driven by what his audience wants as opposed to what's in his own mind. So, yeah, anyways, let's get into it. How's it going, Scott?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Oh, it's going good.
Dude, what is that program, man? You got like that intro and outro shit I just saw. It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Is it like a way to like do active animation or whatnot during live shows?
Well, it's just, you can build these scenes into Twitch or OBS, whatever software you're using, but you can build these scenes, but those are like the first one is a video compilation just for the Test Your Skepticism call-in show, which will be starting this Sunday again, guys, for 2021. But yeah, and then the following one, there's a what's it called? Render Forest, I think it's called. Render Forest is a website where you can turn your logos into animations.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's one that I really liked for the Pangburn logo. So, yeah.
Yeah, because normally that's a pretty expensive process. Like if you go with like somebody who's just like doing it from scratch, you know.
Oh, I know.
it's
yeah,
like, it's gonna be like $600-700.
Oh no, dude! I paid $25 for that. Like $25 clean, and it literally, you can put some together very quickly. You know, as long as you can do your own basic editing and make sure you're uploading like transparent images and things like that, it's pretty awesome.
And basically, you're just uploading your logo as like a vector format. Take it.
Yeah, like a PNG format is enough for that program.
Oh,
and,
really? Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, it's amazing. They have some really cool things. I also use Render Forest for like the Matt Dillahunty Dinesh D'Souza conversation, where there was kind of the cool thing of both their pictures coming together and creating this kind of Armageddon crash.
The flames and all that shit.
Yeah. So they have like a lot of options. Yeah, all that shit. There's like and there's stuff for everything. Like if you're running a daycare or something, they have like kids balloons, the logos and things. They basically have an option for everything. So
the Jeffrey Epstein daycare.
Wow. Where future investment happens. Scooper Sketchy, how's it going, brother?
Yo, what's up, bro?
Yo.
I'm feeling.
You said in the chat you come from the Jesse Lee Peterson world.
Yeah.
Yeah. What brought you to Jesse Lee initially?
I just saw him on YouTube one time.
Oh, okay.
That one where he debated that reporter, like the really old one.
Oh yeah. You
seen that? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Telemundo reporter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yo, who's this guy?
He's a funny guy, man. Jesse kills me. I love watching through his compilations and highlights. He's beta. He black. He black. Amazing.
Radical, fat, black, lesbians.
Lesbians. There's also the
so they're beyond lesbian when he says they're lesbians, are they beyond lesbian?
Lesbian. My favorite Jesse Lee Peterson episode is when he goes to the slut walk, where it's like
Oh, I've seen that.
He's walking up to all these women and he's like, "Are you a slut?"
Jesus
and they're
Christ,
like, "Yeah, I'm a slut. You're a slut. We're all slut." He's like, "No, I'm not a slut. A man can't be a slut." Well, then what are you? I'm a slut maker. Oh man,
that was
what a troll.
I know. So I think I'd like him less if he didn't do that, because it's like the whole he plays in that whole machismo thing a bit too much, and that's where I sort of like dude, calm down. Like you'd be a lot better if you didn't just go into that, like, I don't know.
Well, it's funny if you look at how his audience talks about anyone that disagrees with them, they'll just automatically call them beta. So and of course we're just that's just the people that comment on the YouTube videos, which obviously isn't the core of his following, but I just see that the people that take his comedy to the extreme, and they're like, every single thing is a beta. It's like if someone if they see a dog that looks at them funny, beta. It's like,
dude, when you had the talk with him, it was on the YouTube chat. It was literally like every third or fourth comment was beta. It's like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. Well,
really after you made a certain comment about something, I forgot what you said, and that's when everybody started saying you're a beta.
I think anytime you push back at anything that he says, I think the audience is just going to call you a beta. So if you're not in complete agreement, they're going to be like, "Oh, he's a beta.
Oh, he's a beta. That's why. He's his mama's boy."
So like
you were talking about.
What's that?
I think it was after you were talking about the machismo thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was after that.
A lot of men out there who think that it's that machismo is the way to like be a man. They're the ones that are so beta that they can't bring themselves to buy a margarita if they really want one, and their other buddies are buying a beer at the bar. They're just too beta to be able to buy the fucking margarita. Now that's beta.
What I also think you have too the essence of people living vicariously through other people, calling people betas. They're oh well, yeah, but we can call other people betas, right? So they feel good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think that those people are a little too extreme.
Yeah, but that's sort of the thing. Like, I always question. I always have an issue when, so say, a conversation starts and somebody wants to use a term like beta. The reason that they're using it is that they can disregard what that person is saying.
Yeah.
They can say, "Oh, I don't need to listen to what they're saying. They're a beta." So like, oh, and that's to me that is a fundamental issue in conversation.
Yeah. Do you but I get it. Like, I get the comedy aspect. It's like if someone comes into the room with like, and they're a guy that comes into a room and they're like, they have to list their 14 labels of who they are and what their sexual orientation is and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, beta. Like, I get it. I get the comedy of it. But yeah,
it's sort of the thing. Like I remember like people like when the term totes came out.
Totes,
made a bunch of like friends like that is the stupidest thing we've ever heard. So we started using it ironically, and then you know what happens after a certain amount of time? You end up just fucking using it like an asshole.
Yeah. Yep, totes my goats, brother.
Yeah, I know. And then at some point you have to stop and be like, oh my god, okay. Enough of that. Let's move on.
So Scooper, let me ask you this: what inspires you?
What inspires me? Championship pizza.
Yeah, I mean, pizza's huge, man.
Yeah.
The pleasure I get out of eating pizza is just.
Well, where are you?
Regular pizza.
Well, where are you from? Pizza. What's championship pizza?
Yeah, what is that, by the way?
When you're a winner and you eat pizza afterwards.
Hey, you know what? I can relate to that. I can relate to winning, hockey championships and having the big fucking pizza party after, and just that pizza never tastes better.
Exactly.
Well, I got to say, where are you from, Scooper?
Georgia.
Yeah.
Because I do have to say, there's like Certain places where like you can get pizza that's far better than others. You know.
True.
And that's I've had some pretty bad pizza in my time. Where it's like, oh god,
dude,
god
damn
it!
By far the worst.
Where are you going? Georgia State?
No, I'm in high school right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where do I want to move?
Got quiet.
What are your favorite topics?
Topic?
Well, classes.
Topic?
Yeah.
Oh, classes. ROTC and weight training.
Weight training and sorry, what was the first one?
ROTC.
ROTC.
Oh, what is that?
It's like a military class.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, history as well. I like history.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
What is ROTC?
Reserve Officers Training Corps.
Yeah. So it's like so it's sort of like something you go into high school to start to learn the ropes of what it is to be an officer in the military.
Interesting.
What it is. So you start learning like color guard and all these kind of things, and
Oh, okay. Cool.
It's pretty much a leadership class.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Like every summer we go to this camp and we do a lot of stuff. We go what's it called? Rappelling. We do canoeing and whatever.
Oh, cool.
A bunch of games and stuff. It was really fun.
Do they actually bring drill sergeants in?
Yeah.
For those?
People that
do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they got to be taking it pretty easy. As in the army, man, like fuck, dude. you go 9 months with those guys.
What'd you say, maggot?
I did OSUT, if you know what that is, one station unit training. So I did my basic and AIT all in one shot with the same drill sergeants.
Oh. Okay. Pretty cool.
And that was fucking rough because in basic training, you basically move along this system of being like, of getting flags. You know, you start with a red flag, you move to a black, I think blue, and then finally gold. But it was like, for me, there was always somebody that fucked up, and we kept going back to the red phase over and over. So basically, we were like, the drill sergeants were treating us like it was the first week every fucking week. We were in for like fucking 9 months, and like, god damn, dude, it was brutal.
So, what up,
Grim?
Hello, gents.
So let me get one more out of you, Scooper. What else inspires you?
God, I guess.
What God?
Yahweh.
Okay.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, God. What?
How about like do you ever listen to a song and feel like overcome by like, oh man, whatever's going on there, that makes me feel certain things that I can't put my finger on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What
Art,
artist?
movies.
What artist would you say?
Metallica.
Nice. Dude, I
Ride a little bit of Ride the Lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
What's your favorite album? Is it Ride, or is it Black, or is it
4-Leaf Clover, man? Nobody likes that album.
What was that, Scooper? Scooper, you're a little bit muffled. Is there a way you can turn your mic up a bit, possibly?
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Well, I had it turned up max, I think, already.
We can turn him.
I didn't say anything, so
we can turn him up.
I mean, I'll just turn you up personally.
Okay.
What about you, Grim? What inspires you?
What inspires me?
Yeah.
Fatherhood.
Yeah.
Yep. Having kids is the most inspirational thing I've ever done. It's given me purpose. As somebody who came out of depression and suicidal tendencies and those things, it's given me a reason to live.
Mm.
And how old are your kids? They're like 2 and 5, right?
14, 6, and 3.
Oh, 14, 6, and 3. God damn.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my little girl just turned 18, and she's an asshole. And I'm like, this parenting thing sort of sucks right now.
My 14-year-old is an absolute gem. No complaints. She doesn't have any sass. She's actually Christian herself, and she wants to work with nonprofits when she gets older.
Yep, my little girl, when she was 14, was amazing, and like, she's still awesome. She's, she wants to go to school to be a doctor, and she works in or goes and helps with like homeless centers and like feeds homeless people, but she doesn't want to have anything to do with her parents,
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, I just like, can we hang out for a little bit? And fucking, I get no response, and it's like, oh, you suck.
Well, yeah, we decided to parent differently than our parents and completely changed up with what the data and science shows us, because we just saw that the way that we were parented was a very archaic way that was repeated through history with very little twist, and so we took the approach a little bit differently. So we're hoping that our children are more dependent on us to describe reality in a better way.
Dependent? You said?
Yeah.
Or independent?
Well, they have independent thinking, but dependent on us first before when. So let's say they have an issue with something on a worldview.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
First, right? We would always have that doorway open to say, I'm going to go to my parents first because they have my back and they're going to tell me honesty, with still an independent mindset that we could be wrong and they need to put their own twist on it as well. I define my parenting as guiding a ship, and first you guide the ship down a river where you just define the shoreline, you describe the worldview, and you do the best you can, and eventually they get so independent that you've kind of created almost this interlocking sea where they can't get out yet. And then at 18, you kind of lift that gate and they go out to the ocean, and you don't design shorelands anymore. They find a land and they talk to you about it, and you say, oh, I've been there before, and this is how that works. And that's my opinion, but feel free to explore it yourself and see what it's like. That way they have
totally. Yeah, I mean, I think it was along the same lines. I just opened that gate earlier. I mean, I think by the time Abe was 13, I'm like, hey, I mean, you need to get out there and see. You need to get out there and be your own person.
You start working. You start bringing money into this house. No, I'm just
There's some rocks out back that need to be broken. Get at it.
You realize how many strings I had to pull to get a 13-year-old down at the glue factory?
What else? What else besides fatherhood, though? Like,
I was gonna say,
like, movies, books.
I play music, and I got friends and work and all that kind of. There's tons of stuff, but I'd probably say, like, one of my favorite hobbies is like video gaming. I like to just relax with my friends and just play. That's probably one of my favorites. And then the other side of it is just kind of science, just understanding science and where we're at, and philosophy. And it's always been one of my passions in life, just being on the forefront of that stuff. It gets me better understanding. It's like, I want to know why everything is, but we can only know so much because people just don't know everything. So you're kind of frustrated when you get to the fucking very edge of this shit, and you're like the latest news of like consciousness being a frequency that like our cells are tapping into in our mind, and I'm like, yeah, but what the fuck? Like, I want to freeze myself and wake up in like 20 years and be like, what the fuck was that about?
That makes me think, like, when I was a kid, I had this idea, or what I thought was like a purpose, was to understand the reality that I live in the best that I possibly can. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, everything that's happening now, I'm going to know what's happening in the future. So you don't necessarily get disappointed when new information comes along. You just take that information in, and then that becomes a part of this thinking of being able to understand as best you can the reality in which you live. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And over time, I think that's changed. I think I'm more attuned into going into, what inspires you. To me, at this point in my life, I think it comes down to sort of these intangible things in the artistic realm, even in the philosophical realm of like, so we can understand a certain thing happened. These specific notes were played. These specific words were said in this specific order, and it made me feel this specific way. But there is no scientific evidence or nothing that would come close to satisfying the scientific understanding of what evidence would be. But we still know we're experiencing it, and we still know it's real. And that's the thing that I think of. That's the thing that I try to understand more. Along with like, I'm always constantly watching and trying to understand new news that comes out about, the actual scientific discoveries about the reality in which we live, But like I said, there's nothing that can ever be said or done that's going to prove why a song makes somebody feel a certain way, but yet it does.
So, Scott, just elaborate on that a little more. You're talking about not only taking in these artistic experiences, but practicing as well, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So talk about how you practice this.
I mean, I play my piano every single day, and
right.
It's sort of interesting. The way I do it, I never practice songs. What I do is I just sit down, and I have, I know my scales, I know chords, and I can play chords in any scale, and I just start to play, and it's more about trying to discover something than it is about necessarily being like, oh, I want to play Rachmaninoff perfectly. Because to me, I see that as like, being a technician in music as opposed to being like sort of a creator or a composer, you know.
Right.
People who create are doing it out of nothing. Like, okay, what can we do? What can we build out of this?
That's what I basically had this philosophy when I picked up my first musical instrument, and I wanted to be a musician like when I grew up, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking be a musician because I understood that I would find techniques people would use and I would just apply them to my own and then twist them. But I never wanted to play somebody else's songs. So I've always played my own. Well, now that I'm 36, all my songs that I've wanted to play for audiences have turned into fucking kid songs with fucking kid lyrics. They're about fucking rainbow horses and fucking moon and shit. I shit you not. All these, like,
do you know how much money is to be made off that kind of shit, though?
My wife's like, you should fucking publish an audiobook, and I'm like, that's so much work just to get that shit out. I'm just
you know what, like jazz guitar and blues guitar inspired a lot. Metal takes a lot from jazz guitar.
All rock and roll.
But metal the most because it gets
my brother was a death metal, and I used to mock him, and I'd be like, "Well, you can't fucking play this." He's like, "I play death metal. I can play everything. I'm gonna play."
One also to it with like certain like styles of death metal, they really did reject the entire jazz and blues ideology and went directly back to classical music, to where you're using tritones for all your chords. So every time they're going to different chords, they're still hitting a tritone that gives it that fucking weird sound.
Unless you're going
as for blues, blues are going to use a tritone as like an incidental tone, but it's never going to stick on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's more scaling.
Yeah.
You're getting bands that are like adding more chords to the guitar. I think Meshuggah did that. I think they used 10 strings.
It's also incorporating scaling. Like one of my buddy's house to jam with them, and he started playing the Hungarian scale, and I was like, dude, that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's like when you start incorporating other scales into your scale, then people really take notice of like, how did that make sense? It's like the reason is American standard scale that's been around for fucking ever. It's boring as shit.
Well,
my favorite scale is the double harmonic minor. And if you don't know what that sounds like, imagine any sort of like Middle Eastern music. That's the double harmonic minor. So basically you have a 1 minor 2, and the rest of the scale is minor minus the 7, which is a major. If that makes any sense to you.
Well, I do like a lot of like C.
I don't speak music.
I do like C sus7 and like B sus7, which are some of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
So I
mean, any sus.
We were trying to hit some bars and stuff, and it was a song completely out of I was like, I felt like I learned it.
What I like doing is doing like it's like susses come out of jazz. So the idea you can make sus chords out of, so say you're playing in a major chord 1 3 5, and you're just playing that, and then instead of playing the 3, you're going to play 1 4 5. Then you go back to 1 3 5, and then do 1 2 5. So you're basically just changing the middle note between the 1 and the 5, and that's basically called vamping. That's what a lot of jazz players do. What they just refer to as vamping. But when you actually have a chord progression laid out, like okay, it's 1 5 6 4 5, and then what you can do is, once you've played enough, be like, okay, what I'm going to do is use a sus chord and just replace the chord that it already calls for. Boom, doom. And it just makes it sound fucking amazing.
Yeah. You know what one of my favorite like degradations of the musical scale has been? Has by far, I think, gone into this like chill hop, not chill hop. Jesus Christ. It's gonna drive me nuts. I was stalling too because I wasn't thinking of the fucking name, but like Dead Mouse and like
Dead Mouse.
Yeah, Dead Mouse.
Yeah, Dead Mouse is interesting because if you look at his chord progressions, he goes into really strange places where he's doing a lot of like altered like ninth 11th, 13th chords,
but
and
he'll
he just
he'll twist it that way. And my favorite bands growing up in that genre was Chemical Brothers and Daft Punk, right? And so I grew up off those guys, and they would just take the weirdest fucking worst sounds you could imagine, repeat them 4 times, and that would be the fucking song. And you would be like, "This is the most epic shit I have ever fucking heard." To even harmonize and even get to some sort of scaling is crazy. And they found this model where like we can take fucking airport noises that have no scalability whatsoever, tweak them slightly, and fuck with them in a way that creates an epic song.
I remember an artist I used to follow a lot named Amon Tobin. He started.
Amon Tobin is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
He also has a fucking side project called Cujo. If you've never listened to Cujo,
oh really?
Look it up right now and fucking listen to it, dude.
But
dude, the
I
kitchen
grew up with him. Yeah, I grew up with him making music for like a Toonami and Splinter Cell. So that's where I heard his music from.
Oh no shit!
Yeah, he did the whole soundtrack to Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, and I remember hearing his one album, Ism, I think it was called, and you could tell like he's using like nature and sound to make music, basically. Like he was making like the sound of like you could tell he's like using water to make this sound, but he was able to use it in a way to make it sound like music. Yeah, weird. Very experimental. I don't know where the hell he was going with that because. But he kept making albums like that, and some of them I thought were great. Some of them I were a little like on, but then his latest album seems to be like something else entirely.
That's awesome.
Like Amon is fucking amazing.
Yeah, great. I really like his work. I really like his early work, and
like
his new work.
Is fucking great.
I'm trying to remember what that.
Bricolage was. That was his first full album, I believe.
Where is that?
I think Foley Room is the one that had fucking the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
And basically, what he did is he's sort of like this guy. If you've ever heard of him, Diego Stocco. What he does is he just takes microphones around. He'll like go and like play on a tree and go and like take something and rasp through leaves, but he takes all these samples and just does a shitload of work. You can take a sample of hitting like a stick on a tree and turn it into a bass drum with enough work, and that's what he does. And who is Diego Stocco is the guy, if you've ever seen the first Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr., he did that soundtrack where it's like that fucking like crazy bass sound that's going. It's
Hans.
amazing.
I mean, if you guys don't listen to Hans Zimmer, but he's my he's my favorite.
Yeah, I think everyone knows who that is.
Favorite Hans Zimmer song? You're So Cool. No, favorite Hans Zimmer song is "You're So Cool" from God, what's that movie called?
What's it about? Name the actors.
It is Christian Slater and Rosanna Arquette. A True Romance. That's what it is. Fucking amazing. That was like one of the first things Hans Zimmer did.
Can you send me that link when you just so I don't want to forget?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
It's just so simple and fucking beautiful.
I just wish the whole Blom thing didn't turn into a meme.
I do want to ask Trav, what is your inspiration?
Bitches and hoes.
Well, I think let's look at both sides. On the scientific inspiration side, being out in nature, adventuring, traveling, meeting new people. I feel like I experience the world in a very artistic way regularly. So even when I'm delving into the scientific inspirational elements of reality, I feel like I'm always pulling art out of it and artistic inspiration out of that. So I think I'm getting a double dose most of the time. And then, putting that into practice, I'll use the piano, my voice, my singing voice, playwriting. So I'm a pretty prolific writer, and I take a lot of notes, and so it my thing with inspiration is something. I need to make sure I keep my meters full at 10 out of 10 as opposed to being 11 or 12 out of 10, because I think this is where you can the things that inspire you can actually start working to your detriment. I think we can only we all have varying levels of what our 10 out of 10 inspirational meters are, our capacity, but my thing is to always allow myself to be in states of stillness and calm and being able to shut off. I don't need to create a drum out of every single thing I see. I don't need to make a funny face every time I look in the mirror at myself, or I don't have to always be delving into my the creative elements of my imagination, or I don't always have to be in this constant state of abstract thinking. I can just sit down sometimes and just appreciate my imagination without allowing my inspiration to get out of control. So yeah, I have a lot of methods for that. And then also like things like, playing card games. So those are all the individualistic inspirations, and I think the goal for everyone should be on an individualistic level. The goal should be to be at 10 out of 10 as an individual, and when you start giving up a little bit of your time and the things that inspire you, the others that you have in your life make up the stuff that you're giving up from a inspiration potential. So that's kind of how I view artistic and scientific inspiration. That's why when I founded Pangburn for the first time, the slogan became "Let Art and Science Inspire," and what it's talking about is, let the determined cinema play out and let it be inspirational to you, and allow yourself to feel that inspirational pleasure of existence. So yeah. What else we got in the room? Metalworks. How about you? What inspires you, brother?
Oh, what's the best way to describe that? I'm always liking to find something that is new and like scratch that itch. That's not just like the same old thing, but something that is different, I guess.
Yeah.
Or at least tries to improve upon what's already good. Like my bar isn't always so high for quality, so like I don't mind if something has like shortcomings and flaws, but I always am trying to like look at some things like how can you improve here and there.
Right.
It's the best way I can describe this. So like I always go to video games a lot because that's something I like a lot and I understand a lot more than anything, because I study them a lot. I watch a lot of videos that talk about them a lot, like how mechanics work and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like one of those people who, if I find like something lackluster, like if the writing and the story is like lackluster, that doesn't mean I'm like a person that just likes a good narrative, a good plot. I want like and doesn't think gameplay is important. I'm like the person that likes a complete package. Like, why can't I have a game that's fun to play and is interesting plot that draws me in, that hooks me in? And not everything has to be like Citizen Kane. It just has to be serviceable to what it is. Like, I like Resident Evil 4 because that's one of my favorite games of all time because it's B movie horror plot, B movie action horror movie plot like works for it. It doesn't need to be anything better than that. It's silly enough, it's engaging and fun enough, and it works for what it is. And I'm always trying to find something that like inspire, gets my imagination going and making me think about things, and something that isn't just like eating my time away and not making me think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I always like watching or looking at stuff that also challenges you, your emotions and your feelings and your beliefs and stuff too.
Right.
Stuff that's you wonder like why would you watch something that makes you sad? Because I should be able to enjoy something. I should be able to feel that emotion. And sometimes it's good to feel those type of negative emotions and work through them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's your experience with science? Do you feel the need to be out in nature, discovering, foraging, adventuring?
Oh God, as much as I would like to go outside, I don't go out as much as I should.
Yeah. So, and why do you think that is?
It's one of those things where it's a bad habit. Like, oh, I'll do it, and I don't.
Yeah.
You put it off tomorrow, and you think you'll do it, and then you forget. Or right now, I probably would be doing. I used to do it a bit before, but because of this COVID stuff, I kind of want to stay inside until this thing goes away. Or if I do go outside, I wouldn't mind just avoiding people. It's really cold where I am right now too, so
right.
Maybe when the summer hits.
What do you think about like sunshine and stuff like that like helps you with your immunity, with your mindset and all that? Like, what do you think?
I really should get outside more and get into it. I think sometimes I would get my headphones and just walk around my neighborhood and listen to music, and I would just think about things and use the music as like a vehicle to fuel my imagination. That's the thing. Like, I didn't used to be really into music until I figured out I could use it as a way to, basically get my imagination going. Anything I find something that makes my imagination like going is what I enjoy. And I'm not one of those persons that like has like a favorite genre of music. I'm like, I have a favorite artist. So when I find an artist I click with and I like, I want to listen to all that person's work. And it's hard finding that one that you're like, oh, I think this person's okay, and find that one person you're like, I love everything this person makes.
Yeah.
It's rare. It's super hard to find that. Because I thought I really liked metal, and I'm like, I like metal, but I don't like particular kinds of artists. Like, I don't. I'm trying to find bands that either sound like Judas Priest's Painkiller, or any more bands that sound like 3 Inches of Blood, and I can't really find that kind of singing voice.
Do you
I tried looking into power metal, and I kind of find something.
There's some Japanese bands that have come out that I've been really interested because they really do reflect a lot of like the nuance of the late '90s like rock and roll.
Yeah,
but it's kind
I
of
also really like Strapping Young Lad. Strapping Young Lad's one of my favorite metal bands, and I really like Devin Townsend as an artist.
You definitely got to get outside more. I think there's something to be said when something that has to do with these basically these plants and the environment and all of that, it affects your mind, it affects your emotions and mentality, and it's meant to, we're affected by plants.
Well, I live in PA, man, so the forests around here are just beautiful. Like, all our trees and everything. When you're going on the highway and you just see all the woods and everything, and the big open, like,
we have like
fields and stuff. They look great.
We have oils in our house from all over the world. We believe in the oils completely because they're such a part of our body, and such a part of our nature that we need them. We absolutely need them.
Yeah.
Stay healthy.
I need to go outside more. Like, I don't have like the tan like my dad has, and I really should go out. I'm really pale.
And Metalworks, how about coming into conversations like this? Do you think the thing that drives you to conversations like this is fulfilling elements of putting the scientific inspirational elements of your mind into practice?
My problem is I'm not really good with how do I put this? I guess I wasn't really that good in my science class. I wasn't really that good in my
but I mean
technical class.
yeah, I mean the scientific inspirational aspect of discovery, because you're here to discover something, right?
Yeah, like I like hearing people talk.
Yeah.
So I find people fascinating.
Yeah.
I always like to hear what they have to say, and
yeah,
I like to. That's really all what I'm usually in these kinds of things for.
Yeah.
Because I like people, and I like their ideas, and I like to hear what they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So like the science is I find the science important, but it's just not there for the science. I'm just mostly there for the people and to hear different opinions. And
right. Yeah, but
watching
discourse
and discussion.
Yeah, by caring about the discovery of people and new experiences, it is a scientific endeavor. What you're dabbling in.
I always feel like I should be looking at like Science Magazine or something like the science website. I keep forgetting what the name is. Sometimes I'll go on there and I'll be like blown away by
America.
Yeah, I'll be blown away whatever discoveries they find there.
Yeah.
I'm just right now. I just watched a YouTuber named Ross Scott, and he was talking about an idea he would hope a crazy goofy idea he had. He was like hoping like someone would develop an AI that would basically, if it looked at a picture, it would be able to take that 2D picture and make it into a 3D level in games and virtual software. Because some game companies, they'll make these games and they'll limit to how like you can play them, how you own them, and then they'll shut them down and back on. And he wants to preserve them.
Right.
And one of the things he talked about discussing this was like, we have AI that's able to look at like pictures and able to like get rid of like bad shadowing in them and stuff. Shadowing that doesn't belong there. I'm like, that is nuts. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like how magical technology keeps getting, like how magical looking.
Not just AI. Like if you get into like Photoshop, there are like specific plugins that you can get that use AI where you can take a picture and cut something out, so you can even like someone's hair, and it gets down to like such a granular level, and then does like the gradation just right, so you can take somebody at a beach shot with their hair flowing in the wind and put them in another scene, and it looks normal.
Yeah.
And that's all AI.
I think what's important to know is that our imagination is what limits us. It's not the physical. And if we imagine ourselves to fly one day like the birds, we do it. If we imagine ourselves to augment reality with pictures, we do it. Because as long as we have people forward thinking and saying, I want this
and
goal,
have drive.
this goal, and they don't stop, well, whether through their generation or the next, it's bound to happen if that goal is worth fighting for. So there really is no limit to our imagination, and that's been proven through time.
And I always hate it when people try to limit, like, well, you can't do this in writing, or like there's rules for writing or rules for like design or something like that. I'm like, you really shouldn't view those as rules. You should view those as guidelines. And like, it's not that you can't do it. It's that we don't know how to do it without making it bad. So until you figure out how to write a certain, you know what I mean? Like when some people will try to tell you like certain things you don't want to do in writing. I'm like, I get what you're saying. I'm just waiting for someone to figure out how to get around that that problem, because that's what it should really be viewed as.
What's interesting, do you guys know who Dean Kamen is? The guy who invented the Segway. You ever heard of this guy?
Didn't he kill himself on one?
No, that was the guy who bought the company. But the guy who actually, like the actual engineer who invented it and made it, is this guy named Dean Kamen, who runs an engineering firm out of Boston, I believe. But I watched this interview with him, and he's like, it was so interesting. He's like, the entirety of human civilization has been changed fundamentally by 5 guys. He's like Archimedes, like Da Vinci, but he just like lists off like all these like massive characters, and then he breaks it down in a very like
and
cogent way of no, he doesn't even say me. He's like he breaks it down in a cogent way of like, see, like the discoveries that these guys made is what changed changed all of humanity for all of us for this amount of time. Over this period of time, it's come down to these 5 guys figuring out what they did.
See, I can up on that right there to go. Well,
and that's
really 5 more people that were important, and that was their mothers.
Yeah. I mean, but that's when you get into like a weird like extrapolation of it. But basically, what he's saying is, it's not even saying like these people created something. He's saying these 5 people discovered something about reality. And those discoveries about reality are what changed everything going forward, because that they didn't come up with all the ideas, but they came up with this fundamental understanding of like, here's how things actually work. And that's the interesting part about it. And there's probably only a handful of people who actually come up with that, who can get back to that far of the base of what is reality and say, here's how it is. Like Einstein, like he got back to the fundamental basics of what is reality. Before Einstein, electromechanics and physics were 2 separate things. And then Einstein said, no, here they're all the same thing. And here's this equation. And it's just like this extremely simple equation that ties these 2 things together. It's fucking crazy.
On that note, what removes, like, or what puts down or weakens inspiration for you, Scott, or for you, Matt?
I think that's about experience, and that's something that can't necessarily be put into the same kind of basic equation. I don't think we're ever going to find a way to say, oh, the reason people feel like this is because of this very simple thing, and all we got to do is look at that and it'll fix everybody. I don't think we're ever going to have that.
Well, I would maybe say a huge enemy, maybe the biggest one of inspiration in human beings, would be worry. And it's the same.
It's apathy.
And it's the same fundamental worry that actually played a huge role in our survival. Comes from the same instinct to worry, to worry about our survival, worry about what's going to kill us next, being very careful about our environment. But now we're in such a different, age where this worry mechanism, we have people just finding things to worry about. They're creating things to worry about because they're satisfying this fundamental principle and building block.
But do you think that comes from, that might stem from the
hardwiring? Well, do you think there might be a hardwiring that could correct itself over future generations? Through evolution, like this hardwiring that we have right now, since this change has come on so fast, where we used to worry about, snakes and these kind of things. Right. And that's why we're always like getting into these irrational confrontations. How long do you think?
Don't go outside, the witches will get you.
I know. Do you think we could evolve out of that to the point where our worries become what we're actually experiencing? I think it would take a plateau off of like advancement. Like things would have to stop advancing to a certain point, and then we would adjust.
I think philosophy has helped us to get over a lot of it, at least to a point where you can tell a big difference between a human being walking around feeling right as rain all the time because they're not having to worry about whether if the hunt is going to be good tonight. You have human beings walking around looking pretty damn confident, but there is an element of like, oh, damn it, Christmas is coming up and I'm gonna worry about it, right? And it's a new thing for humanity. But Scott, one thing I will say, the more we get better at mindfulness practice and our our conversations about philosophy, about life, and also the understanding of reality, I think, and also also understanding concepts like determinism, and allowing that to be part of your mindfulness technique, to understand that, if losing a loved one, experiencing trauma of any kind, there is a humbleness in understanding that, there was a physical property to how this all played out. So it's, I think as our tools advance, the more we, and I mean, the realm of psychedelics and implementing that in some way might be some of the early stages of us tapping into, this actually allows us to, through, let's say, a long period of microevolution, kind of eliminate the worry bug as we see it as a bug. Not eliminate all care, but worry. I think the goal should be to eliminate worry and replace that void, which will leave a huge void, with care. And that's how I try to deal with worry.
Isn't it sort of like just getting to the point where the amygdala just keeps getting smaller and smaller?
Well, yeah, it's hard to think of what that would look like physically, but I think
because we know people like enlarged amygdalas like react a lot more strongly to perceived threats.
Right.
And it's one of those rough things. Like I think society has always needed people who react strongly to threats like that. Right. But at the same time, we need people who take caution to the wind, right. And like, okay, well, there might be this threat of this thing, but I'll do this. And then all of a sudden, when I did this, we found out this specific piece of information that made our lives better, you know?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest killers of our time, being in the alpha apex of Earth, is ego. I mean, we see this many times before. How many times have our creations come back to bite us? And we're so pompous to install those creations without honestly understanding the consequences, because we seem to move forward and consequences will be minimal. But yet, if you actually draw a Venn diagram of technology expanding and more risk being taken, you actually have a larger increase in failure and a larger increase in how many people are affected by the failures. On a scale of the cost. So, for instance, asbestos in the ceiling, lead paint, things like that, where the cost it's huge, very much so. So, ego, I think, is one of those things that does not inspire. And if anything, it's a falsehood where you think it inspires, but it actually takes away from inspiration.
What sounds like I don't know if you've ever heard of the term analysis paralysis.
Yes, I have.
So this is something that happens all the time in like research communities, where you get so caught up in trying to overanalyze something that you become paralyzed and you cannot actually like finish your work or act and complete what you're actually going for. It sort of sounds to me that might be what you're talking about, where you're saying the ego comes into place and it's got to be the specific way that you want, and you'll just reanalyze and it's not coming out the specific way I want.
Yeah, I think I used to have an issue with overanalyzation, for sure, and I'd still say sometimes I still do. But as you get older, wisdom starts to play over that. And you start to lean more on the wisdom than you do with the over analytical need. And wisdom tells me that I can analyze all day, but I would accomplish minimalistically what I need to analyze, rather than seek that from one who has already analyzed it in depth and then bounce that off 4 more that are far more better at it than I am.
Yep.
Well,
not only that, but also being.
Then I'm called a sheeple, and then I just listen to other people. And
no, I mean you have to live off the shoulders of giants. I mean that is fundamental in our society. Like if you're gonna try and pretend you're making everything from ground up, you're a fucking moron, and you should probably just shut the fuck up because you're not. But to me, like, sort of the fundamental thing is also understanding when you need to analyze. You know, it's like understanding the context of this specific thing. Be like, okay, I don't need to worry about X, Y, and Z. Oh, but when it comes to W, that's the thing that I need to focus on. That's the thing that I need to like take time and account, work my way through it, because it's something that's not, I don't know, blatant, I guess. You know, I mean, that comes with wisdom. You know, there are certain things that you experience in life that are blatantly obvious, but the reason they're obvious is because you've experienced these things 30 times before. And when you've experienced it 30 times before, it's not 100% true, but I think you have a good basis to go on and just being like, hey, okay, I can take that from past experience. You would necessarily disregard it altogether because there could be like something that is different there, but you have a good starting point, you know?
So too.
I say fear of change be a big one because of what's it called, when you get so comfortable you don't want things to change. I'm saying.
Yeah, fear of change. We see that in relationships a lot, where people prolong relationships for that very reason, afraid of changing. And and there is a lack of inspiration there.
And I think another problem you'll have
also gets into like the realm of like people not going to a new job to make more money because I've got a fear of change, you know, and like people do this all the time. They'll stay someplace for a long time where they could have had something better many years ago because they fear change. Like you just sort of got to go into it.
But I was also going to say another thing that can mess up society is apathy. When you just don't care, and you just don't do anything.
Well, but that's.
And I think sometimes that can drive you to caring about something that you shouldn't carry and shouldn't worry about too.
Right.
Yep. Well, I think I made that point on like a show the other day. I said cynicism and apathy are not virtues.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
They're vices. You know, I mean, like if you're cynical or apathetic, those are vices, and you need to recognize their vices and not try to pretend it.
Yeah,
that makes you like
there's something,
understand.
There's there's a resistance to the truth there, which is very, very. That there's anytime someone tries to resist what is true, what has been demonstrated to be true, it creates a cacophony of issues. And for inspiration as well, like it's like, how can you be inspired to pursue truth that, you know, if you really analyzed what you believe is true, you believe in things that haven't been founded to be true. So
do you have the ego maturity to handle being wrong?
Right. Yeah. And
when you say it like that, Trav, it's like the death of truth, right?
Yeah. And you know, for someone that I think if you do value well-being as a moral principle, you must value what is true.
Great.
You have to value what is true, because what is true is going to lead us to better usages of reality to benefit the well-being meter of humanity.
Some people have different definitions of truth. which just gets weird.
Yeah, but people can say like, but we have to have a working label, and I'm talking about the working label we use in the lab.
I know, but you gotta understand. Like, I remember having a conversation with someone, and I was trying to use let's see here. I think it was colleges or something like that as like a arbiter of like we could use it. Like, well, like give the college the benefit of the doubt. And he was like, I think it was about oil research or something like that. And he didn't want to have it. And I asked him, well, why? It's because he said, well, they get money from the government. So what does that tell you? And I'm like, well, that's not like you have to prove that. You have to prove that if they're getting money from the government, they're gonna,
So
they're
Metal,
reflecting their opinion.
Yeah. So Metal, but that's also why, like, if he is suspect of these colleges and the information they're putting out, scientific findings, the scientific models are independently verifiable. So he should just get up and see if these have been verified, or if he wishes to go verify them, he can, or if he can look at other experts who have tried to falsify the findings and see what he comes up with.
I'm gonna go eat. Have a good night.
All right, peace out, Grim.
I know what you're saying, but
yeah,
some people just don't want to do that. They're just too stubborn, or they're just gonna go listen to Alex Jones, and that's what he was. He was listening.
Yeah, but those people right off the bat are in bad faith.
Yeah, so they're already in a position of not knowing how we determine what is true, not even understanding that, and they've also glommed onto an idea without skeptically looking through the philosophy of what is true. Like they've missed many steps. And you're right in saying, Metalworks, that people get very arrogant and self-righteous about truth. They'll say things like, I know this is true and nothing anyone could ever say will change my mind. How do you like that?
Yeah.
It's like, well, cool. You just demonstrated how you're a cynic and arrogant and ignorant.
Cynical and apathetic.
The problem is I didn't want to have to argue with him because it was at like a family party and he was on my sister's like fiance.
Well, yeah, not every setting.
I'm like, I'm just gonna drop it. I'm not gonna bother.
Not every setting's going to lend itself to intellectual discourse, including when booze and other substances are involved. Usually, it's just a good time to let loose and be inspired in the moment.
I'm just like, you know what? You do want to let it go, but damn. It sucks because that guy is a father, and I'm like, oh.
What was that, Scott?
I was going to say, you know what really helps Metal? Just call people cunts. Like that really.
I'm not going to do that. It's not going to help there. Yeah. I'm not.
It's like, it's like, but you have to say it very, very nice. You be like, I know what you're saying there. I see that you're using English words, and I just think that you're being a cunt. And I know there are sounds coming out of your vocal cords and reverberating out of your mouth.
Oh my God. My sister would give me like the fucking evil eye. I can see it now. It's like, what are you doing?
That just reminded me of a magic card called Evil Eye of Orms by Gore. Classic.
Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are so frustrating sometimes, but you love them, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Well,
I've found the older I've got, I'm less bothered by people.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
I think when you're young, you're like, fucking everything's got to be my fucking way. That's why, like, kids who are like 16, 17, 18 read Ayn Rand and they're like, oh, this makes a ton of sense. But if you're 26 and you're still thinking that makes a ton of sense, you're probably doing something wrong.
Well, I think, Scott, what you're actually talking about in simplistic form is when people's worry starts to die. I think as you get older, you start realizing I don't need to worry about when I'm going to go to the grocery store next. I just fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of an even more colloquial way to say it is the people that have an easy time saying, well, fuck it. Let's just go. Let's go camping. Let's go. It's kind of just like, fuck it. Like there's nothing to there is nothing to worry about here. We're either going to do this thing or not. This thing is going to happen or not, and you know, take time to deal with things that require acceptance and to go through the whole range of human emotions. But let worry die. I tell people this all the time. But I always make sure I say that doesn't mean you don't care about anything anymore. Care must replace where you used to worry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That specifically reminds me of that fucking latest Sam Harris podcast. I don't know if you had listened to it.
Oh, I haven't heard his latest. What was it?
It was along the lines. He was talking about the Capitol riots, and he's like, he goes in this thing. It's like, if you think what I'm telling you with my meditation podcast is that you should just be a hippy dippy and fucking not care about things that are happening, you're taking everything I'm saying completely fucking wrong.
100%. Yeah, it's people did this in the 70s when these type of well-being philosophy came out. It's like, I just need to be out in the grass, man, and being well. Smoke this joint if I feel well. Have some heroin. It's all about feeling well. How about the cocaine? Maybe deal a bit. Oh yeah, now I'm amped. I'm inspired, man. And then if I'm feeling a little down, I'll just have a little more grass.
That thing, all it takes is one really charismatic heroin. It's awesome.
Dude, I've speaking of charisma, I've been I've been dedicating a lot of time recently. Well, I'm basically taking in audiobooks at triple speed right now, so I'm going through audiobooks very quickly. But one thing I'm taking in for more to whet my chops even more in criminal psychology is Manson. And man, I wish there was more lengthy discussions and more philosophical discussions with him, because it's another place, and I want to bring this up because it's Inspiration Day, but it's another place I derive a lot of inspiration, is human beings endeavoring to learn from the nastiest among us. The ones who have done the nastiest things and why they did them. And was there any kind of ideological reasoning behind this? You look at a lot of different cases. I'm trying to set up a conversation with Robert Pickton, who committed all the murders of prostitutes here in Vancouver over a length of time, and there was a lot of them. And then he fed the poor women to their bodies to the pigs. But this stuff fascinates me, and what I very much appreciate is humanity's ability to study these things and to overcome our emotional hang-ups, which actually ought to be quite large when it comes to what these people have done and how many people these people have hurt and caused trauma for. So but I derive a lot of inspiration, through tragedy.
Well, fucking Manson, like, he's different than all those other guys, because what he did was
he radicalized.
He was like a parlor trickster. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess that's the one thing with Manson, because I've looked at it too. There's not a ton of information on him before what happened, so we don't necessarily know how he became to be the way he was.
Well, we have a fair amount, it's interesting. He knew the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys got him into the studio. He's in and out of jail his whole life. couldn't live by the rules. He just, you know, and you know what's a sad thing about him that I think had he been born at a different time with let's say later on in history like today, I think the system would have done a lot better with him.
Took care of him.
And you know, I think the artistic inspirational elements of his mind are off the charts, which is kind of interesting. Like, he's a performance artist. He really likes feeding off the audience. He's got a lot of expression. He's pouring with emotion and philosophical takes, even though a lot of them are just kind of coming from like his idea of what's funny, or like he's like you see these weird things emerge in him that are like, you know, he's poking fun at the man, he's poking fun at humanity, he's saying, you know, and sometimes he'll bask in like, yeah, I don't need to kill anybody, I think it up here and then it happens. You know, he's
I guess
job. I think he got offered a job at Fox News, and he said, like, I don't want to work here. This is a new kind of prison. I don't want to stay here.
Well,
I got money. I got girls.
He had to at some point in his life worked with a con artist. Do you know what I mean? Like he had these techniques of con artistry, you know, where
I think he was just a good actor, man.
Yeah, I think he was, but I think that sort of mentality benefits good acting. It's like James Randi. You know, James Randi was a great con artist. The only difference is he just went up there and said, "Okay, what I'm doing, here's what it is." Right. You know, I think where the maliciousness comes in is when people don't tell you that's what they're doing and they're trying to do it for their own benefit.
Sure.
I think there are people who have these kind of abilities, or they're just naturally inclinated to it, like the same way some people just naturally pick up guitar and shred, you know, like there are certain people who have that inclination, and I think he was one of them. It's, to me, that's what I find interesting is the deeper psychology behind what he was doing, because like how do you get the amount of people to join you? Like, same thing with Jim Jones and David Koresh, you know, like you get a certain amount of, like, you get these people to truly believe you, you know. And I think with Jim Jones and David Koresh, they are both musicians, you know. So they like David Koresh would like jam, like, yeah, man, we're fucking having a good time, and let me tell you about fucking Jesus. And you know, it's like, I can see in you are chosen, you know, and like there's a certain amount of people that they hear that and like, oh man, here's some really sees me in.
And it's inspiring to the people taking it in, especially if they are, you know, if they're using a lot of substances and they're hearing this over and over again, and you know, all of a sudden they start like mumbling the same thing that he's saying.
Exactly. Is fucking crazy.
Yeah, man.
To me, I think it's no different than the kind of stuff that Randy did, except they're not being honest about it and they're using it for their own gain.
Yeah, I mean, Randy was there to say that, you know, magic isn't real, folks. There's actual detailed tricks to all of this. And
even though it wasn't detailed, he would go in there and he would like figure out what they're doing and then like fucking debunk them.
Yeah.
Never seen this before. I can figure it out because I know my trade.
Yeah.
And that's, God, brilliant, dude.
Yeah, man.
Love that. Man.
All right, well, I'm gonna cut it off there, boys. I enjoyed this. This was a good inspiration chat.
Good talk.
Yeah,
I listened most of it, but y'all's too smart for me.
Well, I hope you join us more, Scooper. I'm really glad you stopped by.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, guys. Well, peace out, Scott. I'll go take a listen to the song again.
Yep, I'm about to up the next version. Give me like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Got to do like 2. Cool.
All right, thanks, man. See you, Metal.
All right, later, man.
You guys have a good night.
Yeah, you too. All right, guys. It's been the Pangburn Hangout. And as always, let art and science inspire. Stay inspired out there.